Hello friends and patients. I just got finished seeing patients downstairs and I thought I would run up and talk to you for a few minutes about sweeteners, sugar, sweet tasting foods and drinks, and why it's such a big deal and why you should care. If you know someone who has trouble with their weight or with their blood sugar or with diabetes, please share this with them. Please tell them about this video so that they can ask me questions. They're the ones who need it the most. There's been so much controversy over the last few years about what should I eat? Should I eat fat? Should I eat starches? Should I eat proteins? What the heck should I eat to get to an ideal weight, to get to an ideal blood sugar, to keep my insulin level low? What the heck should I do? And so I'm going to try to answer just a few of those questions today, but we're going to focus on sweeteners, sweet foods, what you should and should not use to sweeten your food with. So if you know anyone who's interested in this, please share this. Turn on your notifications so the next time I have a bright idea that I want to share with you, you will get notification for that. And as always, ask me any question that you can think of. I will answer each and every question and comment that you leave, whether you do it while I'm live or whether you do it later on. Okay, so any question you can think of that I can help your health with, ask me please. So let's get started. So why do we love sweet things so much? Obviously we can't go back in time and we can't go back to the caveman days and figure out why our DNA loves sweet things so much, but we think it's because sweetness in food is an indicator that there's a lot of calories to be stored in that food. For instance, in the fall of the year, the fruits get very sweet and tasty, and we think that maybe thousands and thousands of years ago that gave us an indication as we were about to go into winter and needed to gain weight, we should eat as much of this sweet food as we could so we could gain some weight, and so we didn't starve to death over the winter when food might be at a premium. And so that's one theory that you may have heard. And so we are very sensitive to sweetness in our food, and we love it. All of us, not just you. It's also me. I love it as well. But I learned a few years back that if I gave into that I would not be able to fit into my clothes, and I would be in the exam room telling you, hey, you need to lose some weight, when it looked like my water was about to break. And so I'm not going to be that fat doctor who walks into the room and tells you that you need to lose weight. That's not my style, and that's not how I do it. So sweetness is an indication that this food is going to help you gain weight, basically. And so back in the day when calories and nutrition was very, very scarce, that gave us a clue, hey, you need to eat this so you can gain some weight so you don't starve to death later. So nowadays that there is a McWendy King's on every corner and a China Mart at the end of every street, there's really no shortage of food. And so you really don't need to give in to that evolutionary response of, hey, it's sweet, you should eat as much as you can. So these days we have to minimize the sweet things that we eat, or we wind up not being able to fit through the door, if you know what I mean. So I want to talk for a second about a study that really causes some concern about eating or drinking anything sweet, whether it's sugar-free or not. So this study showed that even if you don't swallow the sweet stuff, you can still have a glucose spike and or an insulin spike, and that's what we think leads to weight gain. So you find some sweet peaches and you pull them off the tree and you eat a bunch of them, okay? Immediately your blood sugar goes up. We all know that's true. There's no argument about that. And then the next thing is that your insulin level goes up, and that helps pull your blood's glucose level back down, but it also does something else. It helps you store that energy as fat, as adipose tissue. And back in the day when it was about to be winter and food was going to be really scarce, that was a big deal. You needed to do that or you would die. These days you don't want to really store much fat at all because we don't need it, because food, at least where I live, is very plentiful. We don't need to store a lot of fat. We don't want to store a lot of fat, and so you have to avoid that sweet taste. So there was a study done that showed that even if you don't swallow the sweet liquid, you'll still spike your insulin levels. And let me explain this to you. So as I was saying, we eat the peaches, our blood sugar goes up, our insulin response goes up. and then we store the fat. Now, we all understand that. You eat it, it's absorbed into your bloodstream, it runs around in your body, and then your pancreas says, whoa, wait a minute. We can't have all this sugar in the blood. We've got to get that out of the blood. Let's increase the insulin, and then that'll pull it out of the blood, and we'll store it and get rid of it, or at least pull it into the muscles where we can use it. But scientists are sometimes smart, and they did this study, and they had people, they gave half of amount, maybe 50 people a sugar drink and 50 people a saccharin drink that tastes sweet but has no calories. But here's the kicker. In this study, they didn't swallow the liquid. They just swished it in their mouth for a minute or two and then spit it out. They didn't swallow it. So therefore, it did not go into their stomach. It did not go into their bloodstream, but they still both got the insulin spike. Think about that for a minute. So it's not just what you sense in your blood. There's a central mechanism that when we actually taste sweet in our mouth, immediately our insulin spikes in preparation for what your body thinks is about to be a sugar load. So even if you don't swallow the sweet tasting liquid, you still have an insulin spike. So that calls into question, should you try to minimize anything that even tastes sweet if you're trying to lose weight or control your blood sugar? And the answer may be yes. So human beings don't need anything sweet. We don't ever need a starch or a sugar or a carbohydrate for that matter. There are essential fatty acids that if you don't eat them, you will literally die. True story. There are amino acids which make up proteins that if you don't eat them, you will die. That's a true story as well. But there is no essential starch. There is no essential sugar or even an essential carb. You could go the rest of your natural life without eating or drinking a sugar or a starch, and you would be fine. You would probably flourish and prosper and be just fine. So when you say it like that, you're like, huh. But now, when we harken back to the fact that, we all love the taste of sugar, then what do you think the big corporations are going to put in their product that they're trying to sell to you? Sugars and starches, because we love them and they taste sweet, and some authorities even think we become addicted to them. So yeah, if I'm a corporation and I'm trying to make $1 billion, I'm going to put that in my food because I know it'll be much harder for you to say no to my food. Does that make sense? So really, in my opinion, I think human beings should minimize the amount of sweet tasting things they put in your mouth. And there's another study I'll tell you quickly, and then we'll get on to the different sweeteners. When you eat a lot of sugar and you eat a lot of starch, it actually dumbs down and numbs your taste buds, your receptors. And so things that normally would taste sweet to someone who never eats sugar, it doesn't taste sweet to someone who eats sugar all the time. So here's a test you can do to see if you're eating too much sweet tasting food. Get 3 or 4 almonds, raw almonds, and pop them in your mouth and chew them up. Do those almonds taste sweet to you? And if you say, no, they just taste nutty and like an almond, then you're eating too much sugar and sweet things in your diet. Because now that I'm very ketogenic and I've seldom, if ever, eat sweets, when I chew up those almonds, they have a very sweet flavor to me. And that's because my taste buds are back on point trying to look for that sugar because they seldom get it. So that's do the almond test at home. And if the almonds don't taste sweet, if they just taste nutty, then you really need to look at your diet. You may be eating too much sugar, too many sweet things in your diet, and you've dumbed down your taste buds basically where they don't recognize sugar where it's at. And that's not to say that almonds have sugar in them. They just have a sweet flavor that if you eat too many sweets, you won't be able to taste that sweetness. Okay? Now let's talk about the individual sweeteners and are they a yes or a no in your diet. The first is the most popular of all. It's sugar. Sugar in strict moderation, using it in minimal amounts in treats occasionally, is very safe. There's nothing dangerous about sugar at all unless you're eating lots of it daily. Then it can be a literal slow motion poison in your diet. Sugar in strict moderation, having birthday cake once a year, is not a problem. There's no big issue with sugar at all. The issue with sugar is that we eat it all day, every day. That leads to terrible medical problems, and we have to stop that, okay? So in strict moderation, sugar's fine. In daily use, sugar is terrible. So that's the whole point with just regular sugar. The next natural sweetener is stevia. This is what I use if I'm going to use something to sweeten my food with. I use stevia, and I use it very rarely because of the study I talked about earlier. If any of you guys want a link to the study, or if you want research behind anything that I'm telling you, all you have to do is leave a comment and ask me. I'm more than happy to share this research with you. I just don't want to clutter everything up with putting that up front. I want you to ask me for it, and then I'll know that you're really interested in it. Stevia is a plant that grows. I've actually grown it in my garden before, and it's a cute little plant that when you chew up the leaf, it's very, very sweet. It's completely natural. It's in the green container in the grocery aisle, and that's the only one I recommend currently. It's very safe. I don't know of any long-term complications or problems of eating it, except hearkening back to the study I talked about a few minutes ago. If you eat too much of it, you might spike your insulin level, and that goes for any of the sweeteners. The next one is monk fruit. I think it's very safe in moderation, just like stevia. I think it's a wonderful thing to sweeten with. The next one is xylitol. It's actually a sugar alcohol, and it's been shown in some studies not to really bump your blood sugar level, not to bump your insulin level if used in moderation, and I think it's probably fine and safe to use for most people. Now let's talk about the fake ones, and here's where we kind of get into the twilight zone a little bit. Saccharin, as we all know, it's in the pink container, and I'm not going to call any brand names because I'm not about being sued, okay? And I know these huge corporations are starting to feel the bite of humans waking up and saying, hey, maybe I should watch what I eat and drink and not just blindly trust these huge multinational corporations with my diet and with my health. And so I know they're starting to feel the crunch of people just not using their products as much anymore. So I don't want to be the guy that they decide to sue. So I'm not going to talk about any brand names if I can help it. But saccharin is very artificial. For many people, it has a very artificial flavor to it. I think if you probably use it very rarely, it's probably fine. I just don't. I don't like the taste of it, and I don't ever use it, and I don't really recommend that anyone else use it either. The next one is sucralose, which the name brand stuff comes in the little yellow packet. This is also not natural. It definitely spikes your insulin level if you eat much of it at all. I don't recommend using it. Out of the three, the pink, the yellow, and the blue, it may be the least bad. If you've heard me talk about less bad and more bad, I think it's probably less bad than the pink or the blue, but I'm not really recommending it at all. But if you must use the pink, yellow, or blue, then I guess use the yellow, but just try to minimize it very much. And the last one is the aspartame, which comes in the little blue packet. The story behind this stuff is just amazing. It's amazing what $1 billion in the federal government can make possible. Let me just tell you, if you want to read a story about corporate greed and the federal government turning a blind eye to something that's obviously bad for human beings, just Google aspartame, Donald Rumsfeld, and Monsanto. And you can read for about an hour, and you will be blown away at what the federal government will allow into our food supply if the right guy and the right corporation spend the right $1 billion. I don't recommend that anybody use what's in the blue packet ever. Aspartame, before it was FDA approved, was considered by most food scientists to be a known carcinogen, probably a known brain toxin. But all of a sudden, when the right guy and the right corporation spent the right $1 billion, it's now okay to put in our food supply and give to our elderly and our infants. It's ridiculous. Do not use the blue packet. Don't ever put that in your mouth or in your food. Please don't ever give that to your children. It's not good for you or for them. So that's just a quick and dirty rundown of the different sweeteners, both natural and unnatural. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of these. Just type in a comment. Please share this if you know somebody who has trouble with eating perhaps too many sweet foods and having a problem with their weight. Share this with them because I'm happy to help. I'll answer each and every comment and question that you have. Please ask me anything you can think of. And then also comment and tell me what you'd like to hear about in the next Go Live video. I'm going to wrap this up, and I can't wait to see all your comments. Thanks a lot.